a lot, Nina. It is. I'm very happy that I am totally on a women's panel. I so miss this today. Thank you, Nina, first of all, for the opportunity to have me here, and thank you all for accepting this invitation. The Global Entrepreneurship Week, I assume it is actually known to most of you because I see the names of the countries and pretty much everywhere it's happening also in parallel. It is part of the Global Entrepreneurship Network, which is an initiative that comes from the United States back in year 2007 officially, and it is an association that cares about entrepreneurship in its all very forms. When it comes to the Global Entrepreneurship Week, this is an event that is in parallel happening in 180 countries. So we today actually are part of the 20,000 partners that are organizing over 40,000 events. And the topics that actually are in focus this year start from entrepreneurial education, ecosystem cooperation, which is actually one of the topics that we will be touching today, female entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship in terms of inclusion and entrepreneurship, and policy making. Yesterday, Startup Macedonia made a great event with policy making. Maybe Nina can share a bit more about it in terms of how can the civil society create good lobbying to make good businesses and make good laws, good legislation. So I would not take further ado. Once more, thank you for having me here, and I'm very happy that you are part of our Global Entrepreneurship Week. So let's have a fun discussion.
Thanks a lot, Simona. And I think we're ready to kickstart this event and showcase what we have as opportunities in each of our countries. Once again, I would like to thank separately each and every one of you for doing the amazing work that you're doing in your own country, but also together now what we're doing in the region. A little background about Womenpreneurs Stories, because this event is under that initiative. The Womenpreneurs Stories initiative started back in 2017 as a platform where we can basically showcase what has been done with female founders and women in leadership positions and inspire the next generation, as I like to call them, the leaders of tomorrow. Last year, for the first time, after doing so many events, not just in the country, but also we did one in Slovenia, we did one in Serbia, we did one in Bosnia, we even did one in Lima, Peru. We saw the need of the participants, that they actually had such wonderful ideas to start their own businesses, but they needed the initial push, let's say. They needed the initial help in the first steps and everything that is regarding the lean startup method. So we started the Womenpreneurs 5-day bootcamp for first-time female founders. It was implemented very successfully for 7 female founders in North Macedonia. And this year, because of the whole circumstances and everybody working from home and being online, we managed together with most of you, with partners from each country, to bring this bootcamp to all 11 countries. And we had above 70 participants. So we are super happy that we supported 70 first-time female founders. And we do hope that at least once per year we can continue doing that, and in a way also creating pipelines so these companies can then go to your organizations and you can support them in the further development and growth. Now, as a host of this lovely panel, I took the liberty to start first in basically showcasing the Macedonian startup ecosystem and what is the state of it this year, 2020. I do hope that my document will open soon so I can start sharing screen. But while it's loading, I will basically just wanna remind you that what we see today, it's totally different of what it was when we basically started more or less building the whole ecosystem back in 2014 and 2015. Back then, we literally didn't had much of an ecosystem. We didn't even had a lot of startups that we can be proud of and work with. But with very grassroots initiative, we started developing the ecosystem, and here it is how it looks like in 2020. You can see my screen, right? Perfect. So we start with basically the Startup Innovation Ecosystem Landscape 2020, which is on top of everything. I would like to definitely start off with Startup Macedonia. Startup Macedonia is a grassroots and bottom-up built association. In 2016, a bunch of startup enthusiasts and community leaders decided to register this association that will serve as an umbrella association, and that will basically give us an insight and an overview of what the ecosystem is, and collect the data. And then based on the data, we can improve all of the services, not just for the service providers that are out there, but mainly for the startups. So in 2016, we started a bit unstructured, and luckily for us, we had very much support from the Swiss Entrepreneurship Program and the USAID projects to develop and implement. And with this, we are super happy to basically be pioneering this kind of data-driven platform in the Balkans, where everybody that is interested in startups and is a startup or is a supporting organization can find everything, every single information through the data-driven platform. And then basically we can use the platform to analyze this data and then improve all the services, and just to have an analysis of in which direction the ecosystem is going. Now we're in the first year of having launched this platform. Just a couple of months ago, in July, we officially launched the platform. And we do hope that proven to be a success story that we can definitely replicate in the other countries. So all of our countries can have a platform that will be very useful for everybody, from startups to supporting organizations, to VC funds, to investors, not just in the region, but internationally. We talk about VCs. We only have, for now, we have South Central Ventures. We're super happy to have South Central Ventures with also an office in Skopje. South Central Ventures is literally present, especially in the Western Balkan countries, and investing in B2B startups mainly. So far, there have been around 4 investments done in Macedonian startups. And this is definitely an additional boost that this venture capital fund is giving to the companies, but also to the ecosystem, and showcasing that you can be based in this little country, but you can definitely raise big funds from VC funds and from international investors. Next up is the meetups kind of segment. Meetups are very, very important for everybody in the ecosystem because this is where the whole community building happens. We see now how everybody I talk to, we are in a way sick and tired from having, I mean, we're happy to have an opportunity to use this technology at this crazy times, but we are in a way tired of being in front of our laptops and network as well in that way. And we were joking yesterday after the panel, not joking, but it was a sincere conclusion that after the event that we had, we definitely missed the follow-up and informal gathering with everybody that was part of the event to grab a drink and to continue some discussion and further planning. From meetups, we have most popular, let's say, is Startup Grind, which is very well known, and some of the other participants also have it in their own country. Some of them are even running them in their own country. Of course, nothing will be possible without Startup Weekend. I believe this is the biggest and the best network community for startup enthusiasts. My story started at the 3rd edition of Startup Weekend Skopje. And also, I know so many people that their story, their journey with the startup ecosystem definitely kick off on Startup Weekend. And then this Funky Friday co-working initiative that we have for more or less once a month, every Friday, together in a co-working space in the country, or just a local cafe bar where we would gather with freelancers and people from the startup community to just have the Friday afternoon for ourselves to co-work and to be able to share some insights. Co-working spaces, from the first one is co-office. It is the first and the smallest one, but a lot of startup stories definitely started from this co-working space. Another unofficial co-working space is Public Room, which we all love from the community. It has everything from food to networking events to great Wi-Fi. So we definitely miss going to Public Room. And then we have, last year we launched this little cute entrepreneurial community center, which is our community is basically going under the hashtag MK Startups. And now with the support of the government through the Fund for Innovations, we were able to open this MK Startup space and organize events and meetups there. The Startup Macedonia team is basically based there, and there's always at least one desk free for people that are coming from abroad and are interested in the startup ecosystem, or just people from the community that are because it's in the center of the city and they need to, send some emails or have a call, they would come to the MK Startup space. Another opportunities coming from programs and accelerators. We're super happy that now we actually have 3 accelerators in the country, which wasn't the case a couple of years ago. We didn't have strong organizations that were providing quality programs. Now also through the Swiss Entrepreneurship Program, we are supporting the 3 accelerators, going from Sivus Accelerator to Seed Hub Skopje to X Factor Accelerator, which is based in Veles. We also support the Business Impact Lab, which is focusing on impact companies or social entrepreneurs and social innovation. And they're also implementing under their umbrella, it's the Social Impact Award, which is also very well known in the world of social innovations. And we put here our little logo of Womenpreneurs Stories just because thinking about it, the 5-day bootcamp that we do, it's actually a program, and we can definitely qualify it as a program. And we're super happy that we moved from community and events to programming part in this last year. This crowded space, in a way, a little crowded space in the media department, is more or less because before it was only ITMK that was sharing news and information and covering the startup and innovation ecosystem. And in recent years, we have Innovativnost.mk that's always covering and always supportive of the whole community. We have Business Info and Focus that are covering the success stories and whenever something is very interesting for them. And then angel networks, we do have one active angel networks. One of the most successful startups at the moment, Brainster in the country, was among their first business angel investment is the Seed Macedonia Business Angel Club. And then from government support, so far we only had the Fund for Innovation, but from this year on, I'm having a sense that other institutions will definitely join in and support the startup ecosystem, from the Vice Prime Minister for Economic Affairs to Ministry of Economy. So we are super excited about the further developments and growth of our startup ecosystem. And 5:15, I cannot believe we're on time. This is a wrap up. Yeah, this is a wrap up for our ecosystem. We definitely, you can ask me any questions, just feel free to use the chat or the Q&A. And after we finish all of the presentations, we will definitely go on and answer your questions. Next up, we have the Albanian startup ecosystem. So welcome to Anaida, and we're looking forward to.
So if you could please just share my screen. And my name is Anaida. I'm an entrepreneur in Albania. My business, Balkan's Capital, offers financial services in Albania. And I'm also involved in the startup ecosystem from several years now, leading Startup Grind and also organizing startup weekends. So this is our colorful ecosystem landscape. So our ecosystem, startup ecosystem, has been growing recently since 2012 with the first Startup Weekend edition. And yes, I'm also a product of Startup Weekend, as Nina, as Jeanette, and other female founders here talking today. And as you can see, in Albania, the startup ecosystem is supported by a number of incubators, accelerator, co-working spaces. We have regular meetups, information sharing sessions, as well as annual conferences, trade fairs, and competitions. So how to do business in Albania? The barriers to entry the market are very low. Registration can be completed in 1 day. Startup capital requirement is around €1, and there is zero tax on profit up to 40,000 euros revenue per year. If I explain a bit our ecosystem, starting from meetups. So we have mostly meetups that are happening around the region. Startup Grind, the monthly event hosting every month an entrepreneur that shares his entrepreneurial journey, and it's an excellent event for networking. Startup Weekend, Tirana, from idea to business in 54 hours. And it has motivated and inspired many young people in Albania to start their own business. The same format as Startup Weekend, and we also have Startup City and Startup Life Tirana, but they are mostly focusing university students. There are meetups from NGO called Garage that target tech enthusiasts and are focused mostly on tech, marketing, events. Fuck Up Nights, we have done a few Fuck Up Nights events where people share publicly their failure stories, and we will have one this week as well. Infocom is the largest yearly conference for ICT and cybersecurity. If we look a bit at the donors and private sector, one of the most important programs in Albania in the recent 2 years is EU for Innovation program. And the mission or the aim is to strengthen the ecosystem for innovation and startup promotion, and it's implemented by GIZ and Swedish Embassy. It has been very active and very important actor in the ecosystem. It has been funding startups, organization via the Challenge Fund, has been facilitating discussion for the startup law in Albania, for the development of a startup portal as well. Then GIZ, one of its program called IDEA, has helped many young people all over Albania start their own business, gain know-how trainings, and they also fund the best ideas at the end. Protic, it's an NGO whose primary objective is to increase the demand and use of ICT and serve also as an information and networking hub, and it was established by AADF, Albanian American Development Fund, in partnership with USAID, Government of Albania, Microsoft, and other actors. And AADF also brought to Tirana a junior achievement that has organized various programs about entrepreneurship for young age. And recently, they also established Tumo Tirana, and the focus are teens between 12 and 8 years old, learning skills like animation, web design, game development, robotics, programming. And then we also have ICTS Lab, and they also target kids with STEM skill, the skills of the century. Other actors that has been funding startups is UNDP. They have funded something like 5,000 euros for their business ideas. And European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, Star Venture program, that I think it's all over the region, targets startups, accelerator, consultants through workshop, mentor, technical assistance. And then Swiss EP, excellent program, and it's a support for ecosystem builders and the leaders in the local ecosystem by helping them to become stronger organization and deliver better programs to their entrepreneurs. For example, their programs, Entrepreneurs in Residence, Women Founders Network, etc. These are happening in Albania. And then if we go to VC and business angels, It's a very huge problem in Albania, access to finance, especially for startups. We are, I think, the only country in the Balkan that do not have our own angel investment network. And the interest of VCs funds to set up operations in Albania, it's limited, as there are not enough investable companies that would meet the demands of VC funds. And the only hope for startups are the bank loans. But again, in order for the bank to give a loan to startups, you should have an operational history, collateral, cash flows that startups, or at least when you are in the business idea, you do not have this. South Central Ventures has expressed interest to invest in startups in Albania. They came several times and did meetings. However, as far as I am informed, there is no investment in any Albanian startups. The only one that is doing this is UNU Social Business, is the only organization that, beside incubation, has also done a few equity investments. And another organization, Invest Funds, programs, and they have programs and activities, and they enable matchmaking opportunities for new business ideas to meet with angel investors. Then, if we talk a bit about Accelerator, Incubators, and different programs that we have in Albania, UK Albania Tech Hub, excellent programs, and they support mainly the collaboration between Albania and UK in the area of technology for startups. Then we have Uplift Accelerator. It's an early stage startup accelerator program, and it's focused on growing business and decreased valuation. So any of you that has a startup in the region, it's not only for Albania, can apply to Uplift. Women Founders Accelerator, again, a program of Swiss EP, is designed to provide support to Albanian female founders to explore opportunities for businesses, for business expansion in the region and globally as well.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. One more minute, Anaida, because we're trying to keep on schedule.
So we have Elevator Lab that supports fintech products, and we have Oficina flexible support programs. University also are doing some supporting program for startups and UNUS. And then if we talk about co-working, I will just list them. So we have InnoSpace, we have Oficina, Coolab, Dutch Hub, Destil, etc. With the government, at the moment, it's been discussed the law of startups of these days as well. The policymakers are discussing with the community and stakeholders to discuss what's the benefit of having a startup law just for the startups. And then municipality is transforming communism monument like pyramid as a center for technology, and the vision is to make it to make Albania as the future tech hub of Balkans. And if we talk about media, one of the most important is Business Magazine, always supporting new startups and stories and sharing role models for new youngsters. And then we have PC World, Invest in Albania, Monitor, and Technocast that are also supporting the ecosystem via their publishing stories. So this is more or less our ecosystem landscape.
Amazing, thank you, Anaida. I'm very excited what you shared, and especially with the monuments, turning them into co-working spaces. It's really amazing, and I do believe I underestimated the time that we need for the presentations. I thought that 5 minutes each will be enough. But definitely, please stay till the end so we can answer in the Q&A. I'm sure that we will have questions from the audience where we can add on top of you just presented. Thanks a lot. And we go next to Romania. Cristina, welcome, and thank you for joining us and presenting your ecosystem.
Hello, everyone. Should I share, or do you want to share?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, for sure.
Okay. Okay. I don't have the logos because that would require several slides. I'm Cristina Juk. I recently took over the executive director position at the Spheric Accelerator in Cluj-Napoca, the second largest cities in Romania. I'm gonna have a quick overview over what's happening at the moment in our country. So far, the estimates for startups is around 1,000. We have a decacorn, which is 10 times a unicorn. UiPath, I think many of you know the name. It's been a huge story in the Eastern Europe. Then we also have a unicorn, EMAG, and then there's two companies from the US, Branch and Whoop, which are unicorns that have Romanian co-founders. They are not like Romanian startups, but still we are proud in having some Romanian blood running those companies. Alongside Bucharest, which is the capital of Romania, there's 18 other smaller cities that are, some of them really well developed, some of them catching up, but all have small, at least, innovation projects, let's say. Okay, regarding the communities, there's of course the Romanian startups, and then there's local startup communities like Cluj startups, Iași startups, Timișoara startups, and so on. And then there's over 50, I didn't count each one of them, but this is an estimate of our tech and business related or marketing related communities. There's a lot of events happening. Let's say the hackathons, a medium would be around 30 hackathons a year. They cover all range of industries and verticals. Last year, we also had the EdTech related hackathons, 3 of them. Health is very, okay, I'm gonna also talk a little about the verticals now since I started. E-health is very, is a vertical that's been receiving a lot of attention in the last, let's say, 5 years. There's an estimate of over 100 startups in this area. Some of them even went internationally and are successes. The PropTech, the community started 2 or 3 years ago. There's over 80 startups in there. The EdTech Romania is an initiative that I co-founded this year. We managed to find over 80 startups in the educational department, let's say. FinTech is gaining a lot of interest, and there's recently the FinTech Romanian Association born. And then starting last year, there's also some attention towards the agri-tech sector, which has an estimate of 30 startups at the moment. Regarding the accelerators, incubators, and other kind of startup-related programs, Spheric was the first accelerator that was opened in Romania back in 2013. Since then, the industry has grown a lot, the ecosystem. At the moment, there are over 20 initiatives, accelerators, incubators, pre-acceleration programs. And then there's also a lot of companies like corporate supported programs or other types of this startup support programs. Not exactly like an accelerator incubator, but like Nina was mentioning about the womenpreneurs, it's some initiatives from different places. Regarding the investment, at the moment there's around 15, 17 investment funds that are operating in Romania. Some of them only focus at national level. Some of them are European investment funds that also have branches in Romania. There's also 7 business angels groups active in Romania. Regarding university hubs, there's another sort of entrepreneurial programs. A couple of years ago, the government started making some steps towards this, encouraging young people to study entrepreneurship. And thus, at the moment, we have over 20 entrepreneurial student associations that are basically, let's say, support programs for startups. Some of them act as incubators, but they're all inside universities. And then also regarding universities and students, there are other support programs as well. I covered the verticals. Media, there's over 15 online publications dedicated to startups and business, but like even the business related publications that cover like not only startups, but still there's a focus on that. And then there's 2, at least to my knowledge at this moment, 2 initiatives that also print one of them is a monthly magazine and another one is a trimestral with news and other kind of information and insights from the community. There's over 20 big conferences dedicated to tech and startups and a lot of meetups. I couldn't even fit everything into one slide. It can be anything from local communities, but also there's a lot of companies that like big companies, let's say not corporate, but usually tech companies that start to develop their own meetups where they share from their own experience regarding, I don't know, sales, product, marketing, and other information that is aimed at startups. Back in 2018, there was a report on co-working spaces launched by Fab Lab Iași. It had 88 co-working spaces mapped in Romania. In 2019, there was another report from another co-working space. They announced that there were 23 new co-working spaces opened. Out of even this year, with all the corona happening, there are 2 or 3 new co-working spaces that were launched in the last few months, even though the rules are still strict and there's very few people that are actually going to work from one of these spaces, but it's still happening. I'm not sure how many have closed. Until now, I didn't read any news about it or didn't hear anything, let's say, in the market. But who knows by the end of the year what else will happen. About 60 to 70% of all these co-working spaces are found in Bucharest, then another 10% in Cluj, and the others are scattered around all the other cities in Romania. IT clusters. Recently there was...
sorry to interrupt. We are over time. We're trying to, keep it...
This is my last sentence.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. There was announced that a Romanian cluster of clusters were formed out of the 11 regional and local IT clusters that are in Romania. 9 of them joined into a bigger cluster with the aim of representation at a bigger level, national, but also European level. This was me. Thank you.
Thanks for the lovely presentation, Christina. Looking at this slide and what you just introduced us to the Romanian ecosystem, I can see we have a long way to go. You have so many more opportunities than what we have right now currently in North.
A few years ago, things looked totally different.
Yeah, I can
tell
imagine.
that.
That's for sure, and this is why I'm excited for what we're gonna accomplish in the next 3-4 years. Thanks once again. I hope you will stay till the end with us so we can address some of the Q&A that we have. And now I'm super happy that we will be traveling to Sarajevo. So welcome Bosnia and Herzegovina, welcome Alema, and feel free to introduce yourself. Yes, you're unmuted and you can share your screen and you can go ahead. And thanks again for being here.
Can I just ask you, Nina, for me to open because I can't open on my presentation? I don't know. But you know, I will actually introduce myself. My name is Alema, and I'm a Swiss EP ecosystem facilitator in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I'm happy to say that I'm also Nina's colleague. So one cool fact about me. So after seeing Romanian ecosystem, I must say, as Nina said, we have a long way to go, but I'm always proud to see where we actually achieved. So when it comes to Bosnian ecosystem, let's just follow one person who actually is trying to become an entrepreneur, or what happens on the journey of this person to actually end up having a startup. So when it comes to Bosnia going on events and meetups, the most, I think, frequent events are happening in 3 major cities, which is Banja Luka, Sarajevo, and Mostar. So wherever you end up, you will see some young people are actually as being on the startup grind events, or actually being as participants of startup weekend. And one really big conference that you can actually check out all of our startups are Sarajevo Unlimited. So whatever you in November in the city, you can check out. And also this person is reading a lot of newspaper and a lot of cool stories on several our media platforms. And if you check it, Lonats is the most popular. They have really cool interviews with our founders. So you would definitely see why someone gets easily inspired. But also on the way, being an entrepreneur, we have a lot of young students that are actually have starting their own ventures on their university. So 2 universities in Sarajevo has their own incubators, which I would like to be a part of if I was a student on these faculties, because it's more easier when someone is showing you a lot of and introduce you into the ecosystem at this early age. And also, if you are in a tech, there's B&H Future Foundation that actually supports you with a cool mentor, especially mainly from the science and technology. So someone that can work for you for a year on your product or some cool idea. So other ways for entrepreneurs and people to actually meet one another is in the co-working spaces. We have a lot of co-working spaces. So, and especially I know in the region, a lot of them, like Hub 387 has partners, for example, in a space in Albania or MK space in Skopje, and Smart Office in Belgrade. So you can just check it out, like, and use those 2 days here in Sarajevo or hang out with me. Mainly these co-working spaces, what is really cool about them, they have educational programs, and some of them, they actually throw a lot of meetups, especially Hub 387. So on monthly basis, we have one startup meetup where all the community gather in Banja Luka, that is Q Station, and in Mostar is Q Hub. So whatever you are in Bosnia, in these three cities, definitely catch up with the community of these meetups in the co-working spaces. Other way, if you already have idea and you wanted to go to incubator program or accelerator program, you actually check out with the local organization. So every city has its own, I would say, main station or incubator program, but it depends on your idea. If you have a social impact idea, you will go to the Mosaic, for example. For your tech idea, you will go to Intera, you will go to the Foundation 787, or you really wanted to scale up internationally, you will go to Startup Studio Ministry of Programming. Also, for the people who don't know what to do with the tech idea, they go to Catalysator, which is actually our incubation program in Banja Luka. Today, everything is much easier because every program is online. So I think that's kind of like giving more opportunities to young people today and on the world to the ones who actually want to start their own business. When it comes to scaling up, unfortunately, there's no venture capital firm in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but there, as Nina mentioned, South Central Venture is present here. So currently they didn't invest in any Bosnian venture. They are missing out, I'm just saying. And so we're actually expecting that some ideas will gonna, actually some startups will get investment in the following in the following years or something. And also I don't want to tell about you guys about the government, because as you know, Bosnia and Herzegovina is a bit complicated when it comes to all the governments, but what is important to mention that they really do give you support, not in a way not in a way that maybe we would want it to if you're a tech startup, but hopefully we will see some innovation funds in the future. So yeah, if you're in, especially if you're in Sarajevo, you can always contact me and I will explain you and meet you with all the people. So.
Thanks a lot, Alema, and what a great storytelling. You actually took us to the whole entrepreneurial journey. I will definitely use this storytelling technique for the next time I present the ecosystem landscape. Thanks once again. I do hope you will stay till the very end. And now we're gonna travel to Montenegro. And I'm super happy to have Bojana Maraš from MTEL Digitalna Fabrika, or Digital Factory in English. Welcome, Bojana, and feel free to introduce yourself and to showcase your ecosystem landscape. We actually cannot hear you. Now you're muted, but maybe it's with your
Try to see if it's the microphone, the microphone button from your laptop.
Yeah, maybe it's the microphone button from your laptop or the speakers.
I think you have to leave the meeting and connect again. Maybe someone can take the turn.
Okay, we can try the text.
Okay.
Now we can hear you, Bojana. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Perfect.
Oh, great. Always problem with me.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No worries.
Always some kind of problem with me, and I'm not going to tell you about Montenegro ecosystem, because in Montenegro nobody knows what startup means. When you tell word startups, they're like, what is that? So I'm going to tell you about MTEL Digital Factory and her role in a Montenegrin startup ecosystem. MTEL Digital Factory was opened in September 2017 in the center of Podgorica. It's the capital of Montenegro. It is a place for development of startups, gathering and strengthening the startup community. We are part of telecommunication operator MTEL, which operates in Montenegro, Serbia, Austria, and Bosnia. MTEL is the first telecommunication operator to invest in the realization of Hub, because our CEO believes that we are the new future. It is the only matter of time that a startup from Montenegro will be very successful. And until then, we have a big job ahead of us. First of all, changing the mindset, and really there's a lot of work to do. From its opening until today, Untitled Digital Factory has made an enormous contribution to the startup community in Montenegro. In 3 years, we organized 3 startup academies. It's the first academy of that type in Montenegro. Each academy, for example, lasted 9 months. Through a 9-month program, startups and mentors went from idea to concrete product. The academies were completely free. And it was about 300 of teams that applied, for example, for the first academy. And we chose 21 teams that attended the entire training. The training is divided into 2 parts. Of course, ideation cycle and validation cycle. I'm not going to tell you about academy because in your country, you really know what startup academy is and what do they do. So I'm going to tell you more about Untitled Digital Factory. We are first free co-working space in Montenegro. In Montenegro, there is only 3 co-working spaces in all country. And we are the first co-working space. 3 floors, provided all benefits. So we have a hall for work, a hall for presentation, classroom, kitchen, place to rest, playroom. We have everything. We gave freelancers a laptop, excellent Wi-Fi. We give them everything just to come and work and learn about startups. From opening 3 years ago, Untitled Digital Factory, we organized 300 of events, 400 meetups, 3 hackathons, workshops, info session, and everything. Admission to each lecture was free, because we really want to start something new. MTEL is a big company, really big telecommunication company, and we can afford it. We can afford to give Montenegro a free co-working space, a free startup academy, and we're going to invest more. We're looking for a startup, so if you know a good startup to come to Montenegro to teach us a little bit, you're free to tell me. Because we're open for everything. I also want to tell you that we are arranging and planning cooperation with the Ministry of Science in Montenegro and with the government, and we're planning soon a new academy, the 4th academy. I don't think it will be possible for our mentors to come in Montenegro due to coronavirus, and I think everything will be placed on Zoom. So if you know any mentor from your country, you can recommend it to me, and they will teach us everything. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Bojana. It looks like that we have a lot of potential for collaboration and to support you over there in Montenegro. Especially for me, it was definitely a challenge to find a partner in Montenegro. I was very surprised. I only knew about the Spark Me conference, and then I couldn't find a suitable partner for this initiative. And I'm super happy that I found you, so we can definitely support you in growing even bigger, because it's definitely a shame not to build a ecosystem in Podgorica or in Tivat or in Kotor with all the wonderful views, and brings up a lot of childhood memories. But definitely we will be in touch, and we do have a lot of mentors that we can have a separate call about it and support you. Thanks a lot for the lovely presentation. Feel free to stay with us till the very end. Now from Montenegro, we will travel to Kosovo, and I'm happy to welcome our great partner from Open Data Kosovo, Blerta. Welcome, and we're excited to hear more about the Kosovo startup ecosystem.
Hi everyone, nice to see you all and virtually meet. I totally agree that even if in this virtual meeting, it's really nice to connect with you all, and I'm amazed of your work. So I would just like to start with that. I don't have a typical summary like you all had. I have a small presentation, but the reason behind is that the work that we do is a bit different, but I already heard from all of you. So I am Birta. I am the Executive Director of Open Data Kosovo, which is a civic tech organization. We are a non-for-profit foundation, but our work is related to using technology for public good. So people usually confuse us with ICT companies in general because of the work that we do. It's very related to data collection, data processing, analysis, and stuff in between. And the inspiration behind of why we started this initiative is that is based on the actual need of our access to information from our public institutions. So we're mainly focused in opening data in Kosovo, and the way that we do that is by partnering, of course, with a lot of partners. So I will try to also share a bit of our work experience and the way how we achieve results, and also try to present you with the ecosystem in this field more, because this is the sector that we work with. So I mentioned that we work a lot with data in general, and because Kosovo is known for its young population, so the whole population has around 70% of the population is under the age of 30-35, so it's a huge potential for us to use. So we do a lot of workshops, boot camps, and hackathons in order for us to involve community around our mission that we are aiming to. So we use our approach to open data to involve also the community, so they are challenged and presented with the real life digital solutions, so they can also build their portfolios. So we are focused in helping also creating new jobs and opportunities for our youngsters in the country. And in general, the way that we do this is by partnering with public institutions and identifying their needs in digital transformation, and then we together help them build the actual solutions. In the end, we have the open data, the access to information in the open data standards. For all of you, that is the first time that you are presented with such a concept. It's something that has started a while ago. It's not very. I mean, it's around 10 years that started from the government of Obama in the US, and then it spreads amongst around 200 countries in the world, and then it's there are a lot of great practices to make more sense of the democratic state that we usually aim for, especially in the Western Balkans. So democracy, transparency, and accountability make more sense when it's combined with tech and when we have access to information. So the way so I also added some of our main partners that we have in helping us achieve this goal. As I mentioned, we are a civic tech organization, so we partner a lot with other organizations that are operating mainly in Kosovo, but in order for us to create great practices and also use the already existing resources and networks that exist around data standards, more specifically open data. We also partner with different networks that are already working in their countries. So I guess you can find some of the organizations from your countries that are working with open data. So we are part of Code for All, which is a network that are, you know, organization mainly specifically working in civic tech initiatives and issues that are, you know, telling showing ways of how civic engagement can be more active by using technology. I mean, we are also, like, our main partner, of course, is the government, and it's very challenging, I can say, because we are, you know, starting from scratch. The digital infrastructure is missing, so we are very ambitious, because we are trying to take this road of digital transformation from very traditional public institution to very open ones and very advanced ones. I mean, we have some advantages, because there is not an existing infrastructure that we need to change, but we can start from scratch. But also at the same time, of course, we have challenges, because this is something new, and they also need capacity building. So we are also training the public officials in this regard. I'm not sure if I passed the time, but I think I did, right?
A little bit, but I just wanted to add on top of what you said, that with the entrepreneurial mindset, wherever we have challenges, we see them as opportunities, and that's always a great way to think of things. Thanks a lot, Blerta, for showcasing what your organization does and what's going on in the Kosovo startup ecosystem. I would like to also really mention, because it's one of my favorite conferences in the region, it's the DokuTech conference, especially the one in Prizren, and I'm looking forward that at some point in time we'll have it out in the open, maybe with mask on, maybe with mask off, but definitely my personal recommendation is DokuTech as a conference, as a networking event in Kosovo. Thanks once again for being with us. Now we're going to travel to lovely Slovenia, and I'm super excited to have Tjaša over here as our partner. Welcome, Tjaša, and go ahead and introduce the Slovenian startup ecosystem to us.
Hello, everyone, again. It's really a pleasure to be in such a good company. I'm Tjaša Sobočan from Seed Slovenia. So we are basically a network of entrepreneurs, a community where we give space to founders, where they can exchange experiences and know-how and basically share their problems, entrepreneurial problems, or just lessons learned. So we are also a part of the startup and innovation ecosystem in Slovenia. Slovenia is actually a very favorable ecosystem, you know, because it's a great space for living and creating. We are also a member of European Union, which means that we have also access to larger funds and, you know, also public funds through European Union cohesion funds. So basically, when I was listening to your presentations, I liked, Nina, when you said that be in the little country, but attract big investments. That is very true also for Slovenia, because we are little, but we are very rich in our ecosystem. And I also realized that this, my mapping doesn't do its justice, because here what is missing, you know, in Slovenia, we have two ways when you are approaching the ecosystem. So one is through public funding, and the second one is through private funding. And I was focusing on this map, I was focusing more on the private funding, and we can go through it a bit later, but I want to start with the public ones. So we have like every university has its own university incubator. They don't support only students, but also like alumni or larger teams of, you know, founders. And then we also have technology parks. that are basically supporting not only tech related startups, but in wider cross industry. And it's basically very very it's intersected because, for example, almost in Slovenia we have 12 regions, and almost every region has its own, let's say, micro regional innovation ecosystem. So if I would add all the hubs and innovation center and incubators that we have and are funded also through public funding, I would need at least maybe 2 or 3 slides. But if I continue with the private one, here with venture, I will start with the venture capital. The Silicon Gardens, actually, those are founders that now became VCs, and it's private funds that basically are open to all startups. And then we also have an angel network with Business Angels of Slovenia. In accelerators, the most known are ABC Accelerator and Catapult, which are basically trying to connect the startups with the industry. Actually, today we have this here within the Meetup section. I gave examples of three Meetup like startup conferences that are most known. It's Podium, Future 4.0, and Founder Stock. The Future 4.0 is actually happening today, and their goal is to connect startups with industries and corporations. And when I was mentioning the public funding, it's actually governmental support. So in Slovenia, we have 2 main let's say organizations that deal with startups and small and medium enterprises. It's Spirit Slovenia. It's the public agency to encourage and promote entrepreneurship, and the Slovene Enterprise Fund. And just this year, the Slovene Enterprise Fund will give 6.3 million euros to support SMEs and startups. And over the past 10 years, they supported over 800 startups altogether. So, we are a very vibrant startup ecosystem. We operate under the open platform of Startup Slovenia. And at Seed, we are especially proud that we are part of a global Seed network. So we also have Seed in Kosovo and North Macedonia and Albania within the countries that are here. And we are very proud because today we are discussing. We are having this discussion under the initiative of Womenpreneurs Balkans. We are very proud to present a project that we are launching tomorrow. It's called AVE Slovenia, Academy for Women Entrepreneurs, because we believe that the world needs more successful women entrepreneurs, and at Seed we are happy to support that. And basically tomorrow we are launching this initiative in Slovenia, which means that we will build a community of women entrepreneurs, so the ones who are dedicated to grow. It's this it's called OFF. It's actually a globally led initiative by and supported by US Embassy in the State Department, and we are very happy that we can share it with you today as a forecast for tomorrow, and hopefully somebody that listens today will also maybe take a look tomorrow. Thank you.
Amazing, and what a nice way to wrap up your presentation of the Slovenia startup ecosystem with an initiative about female founders. I'm super happy about it, Yasha, and you can anytime you can invite all of us to to participate in the academy and to support you with this kickoff.
Thank you. Noted. Will do.
Thank you. And now we travel to lovely Croatia, and from Croatia we have Maja. Maja, welcome, and we're looking forward to hear more about the Croatian startup ecosystem.
Yes, thank you. Do you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Okay. And now I just have to figure out how I can see what you see on the slides. Just a second. Okay. So do you see the slides?
Yes, we see the first slide.
The first slide. Okay. Perfect. Great. So thank you very much, Nina, for bringing us together, even though I'm sure all of us are really tired and I had like 5 calls already today. I was actually super excited to be here today because I think even though the online calls take their tolls on all of us, these kind of calls are actually very, very inspiring. And I'm very happy to have this call today because in 2 days we are here at Algebra Lab launching our 13th, so the lucky 13th generation of startups in our startup incubator, and I'll come to this a bit later. So
congratulations.
Yes. So this is the sort of a short slide to tell you a bit about the Croatian startup and innovation ecosystem landscape. And much like my colleagues from Romania and from Slovenia earlier, I was not able to put everything on the slide because the startup ecosystem in Croatia today is very, very highly developed to the degree that we now not only have I have enumerated something like 50 accelerators throughout the country, roughly 100 co-working spaces. Also, each university has its own student incubator. Then also we have around 10 technology parks right at this moment. Like Slovenia is divided in 12 regions, Croatia is divided in 20 regions, and we also have in each of these regions micro-regional innovation systems which are different from each other in that they specialize in what is really characteristic for this particular region, but it's also the state and the Ministry for Economic Development is trying very hard to network these micro-regional innovation systems. So the year 2020 was very, very successful year for Croatian entrepreneurship system. We have in September, we had 4 really big achievements in the ecosystem. We got our first Croatian unicorn. So the company is called Infobip, and they were valued on the market at they capped $1 billion company valuation. So that was the first big news, and all of the big good news came in September. So Corona didn't really influence, luckily, I'm happy to say, the startup system. The second good news was that our largest game development company, Nanobit, was sold for $150 million to the Swedish company Steelfront. Then one of the most successful and notable Croatian startups, Rimac Cars, acquired, so they bought Bugatti cars, which was also for us sort of a sign of transition and change in times, how electric cars today are taking over, even in the startup system, the good old tradition. So what helped really heavily the development of the Croatian ecosystem was that we got access to the EU funding, and practically each of these 20 micro regions in Croatia has something that is called development agency, and these development agencies disperse EU funds throughout the micro regions, and then work on strengthening and empowering the micro-regional ecosystems. So the first level of investment that they do is in the so-called brick and mortar investment. So they help to build the infrastructure, and then in the second way of their support, what they do is they empower people who are in these buildings then later on through various educational programs to actually learn how to be a successful entrepreneur. So this is one thing that was very helpful. The other thing that was very helpful is that we got access to really serious venture capital funds. So a year ago, Croatia became a home for Filrush Capital investment fund, which in the next 4 years will disburse investments in startup ecosystem in the amount of 33 million euros. And these funds all go directly through pre-seed and Series A funding into Croatian startups. So this was actually one of the biggest obstacles in the building of the startup system, that pre-seed funding was not really available. Now the pre-seed funding is available not only through angel networks, but also through venture capital funds like Filrush Capital and Feels Good Capital also, and of course all of these others which are now very active in the Croatian region. I just put here on the slide the most important and the biggest, so to say, and the oldest players in the ecosystem landscape, but there are many, many more. And you can see here some of those which are also familiar to all of you, because many of them operate on the regional level as well. Another thing that is also characteristic is that women entrepreneurs have also started to organize very strongly, in that they help not only building relationships like an association that is called Women in Adria, which also has its network in the Balkans. So I know that they have their offices in Sarajevo, and I think they have it in Belgrade as well. And then what we do,
from what I know.
Yeah.
Very funny as well.
Yeah, and what we do here at Algebra Lab, so this is our here at the university, our incubator, which is the oldest and at the moment the most successful incubator / accelerator in Croatia. So we have incubated 12 generations so far. This is our 13th. More than 100 startups have gone through our educational program, and we have a very high success rate in maintaining them and in keeping them alive. So over 80% of our startups are still alive and kicking on the market. What we offer them is, on the one hand, a series of educational workshops and one-on-one mentor sessions, but it's also very important. It has proven to be very important that we can give them access to mentor community, and that we can also connect them in the big business. So we are now at the point where the Croatian system is learning how to connect startups with big corporations, so that both sides can actually profit from each other. So this is the big topic in the Croatian ecosystem right now, because we have seen that big corporations here have trouble innovating, and they have problems innovating. It's not that easy for them, and cooperating with startups actually makes things much, much easier. But these are two completely different cultures, working cultures, thinking cultures, and I think the role of incubators and accelerators such as ours is actually to facilitate this exchange for the benefit of both sides.
And corporate innovation is definitely a big challenge everywhere. So I do wish you really good luck, first of all, and then hopefully we can learn some success story coming from the Croatian ecosystem about corporate innovation. So now, thank you, Maya. Thanks once again. Let me see how, okay. I can I stopped sharing your screen so
Yes,
we can
yes, I
don't see your emails.
emails.
Thanks once again. Now we will travel to the country that I missed the most this year, to be honest. Like, I cannot believe that a year has gone by and I haven't stepped my foot into Greece. I definitely missed it a lot, and I do hope 2021, I promise, at least a month, starting from Thessaloniki and all the way down to the coast. I'm looking forward to learning more about the startup and innovation ecosystem in Greece. We have Mirto. Mirto, welcome to the panel, and let's hear what you're going to share with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me so much. Thanks for organizing this. So it's really exciting to be here and be such great company. I wanted to start by saying that I think the region has gone through amazing progress the last few years. I'm excited to hear about what's happening in Croatia, about what's happening in Romania, what's happening in all the other emerging economies and countries and startup ecosystems in the region. And I really think that the next few years will be critical in the development. And if we're sitting here in 3 years from now in the same panel, our experiences and what we've seen in the market will be different. And I'm wildly optimistic about what's to come.
Challenge accepted. So in 3 years' times, I will definitely repeat this panel so we can see about the progress.
There you go. It's a date. So yeah, just try to give you a brief overview about what's happening in Greece at the moment. 2020 has been a year of realization for Greece. So a lot of the initiatives that started in the last 2-3 years in terms of the companies, in terms of the VCs active, have seen a lot of fruit to their efforts. So we had a few exits. We had the largest exit so far for Greece with InstaShop, which was sold for 360 million earlier in the year. We had another company on the mobility space sold to Tier. Earlier this year, we saw one of our companies exit on the deep tech space. So we had a company that active in GPUs that was sold to Applied Materials. So we had a great year despite Corona. And added to that, there are many companies that are now maturing. They're reaching Series A funding. So after receiving local funds the last 2 or 3 years from VCs like ourselves and our peers active on the ground in Greece, they have now gone to seek financing from larger funds abroad. So things are moving along very well. The situation is very different already to 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when the new, let's say, class of venture capital started. I'm going to say that our fund, Metavalon VC, is one of the funds that was created in 2018. There are 6 funds at the moment in Greece, and those were part of actually an EU initiative called the Equi Fund, which co-funded together with private investment, of course, these funds. So all of us 6 active funds in the market have the EIF as our anchor investor, and together with the private funds that we fundraise, we have the capital, which is around just over 200 million to invest in Greek startups. The last 3 years since that setup, there's been about 100 startups that have been funded by the institutional investors. And what's very interesting is that the kind of composition of those startups. So those startups are 2/3 of them are in the B2B and the deep tech space. So we see a lot of innovation going beyond the marketplace and B2C, which is also still strong, and some of our colleagues are very active and very successful in this space. But we see a shift going towards more IP companies that are developing their own proprietary technology, and we think that this is actually one of the ingredients that the country, and in my opinion, the region in general, can put forward and can act as its USP. So in addition to the venture capital, which I mentioned, there are a lot of accelerators and incubators that have been active for years. So those provide, I would say, around $500,000 per year of funding to very early stage startups. So very small, 10, 20, 50,000 investments that help companies go from the ideation to a prototype stage, which then helps them grow. They also give a lot of structured tools for them to work with. And also quite a few co-working spaces, and to that I would add the Meetups and network, which are forming in Greece, and are quite good for the startups in their first steps. Just to say that we talk a lot about Athens. The situation is also good in other regions in Greece. So Patras is a technology hub. Patras is on the western side of Greece in the Peloponnese, but it's considered Western Greece. Has an excellent hub for semiconductors, for microelectronics, a very strong technical university, and a lot of companies, big companies like Citrix, like Applied Materials now with their acquisition, that are setting up centers, R&D centers there, and therefore acting kind of in an acceleration way and acting in a multiplier way to create even more startups and more innovation coming out of those places. Crete as well, which is an island many people associate just with vacations, but it also has a very strong technical university and a lot of innovation coming out of there. I would say that the angel investing is not very strong in Greece yet. To that, though, it seems that things are changing. There's an initiative now from the Hellenic Republic together with the EIF again, that is trying to create some business angel funds that will co-invest with angels. So we're hoping that the early stage is better served as well, and then we can, from a VC perspective, take a slightly more mature companies to the next level. So I don't want to tire you anymore. It's getting late, and I think I've done my 5 minutes. But just to reiterate that I'm very optimistic on the region in general. I'm very optimistic about what things are happening, and I'm also very optimistic since we're discussing in a women's panel about the participation of women in the overall ecosystem. So I see women in leading positions on the VC perspective. In our VC, there are two partners. My partner, Alexandra Holly, and myself are heading the fund. We have, as I mentioned before, when we were having the discussion before the panel started, that a third of the companies that we've invested in have a female as a founder. And I see also a lot of women in leading positions in the accelerators and incubators, in the co-working spaces, organizing meetups, etc. So again, I think it's a great setup, and it's kind of set up for future success. I'm very excited about what's to come.
Thanks for the overall optimistic overview from your side, Mirto, and definitely I learned a lot about the Greek ecosystem. I knew a couple of players, but now we really have a really good sense of what's going on over there, and I do look forward in collaborating in the future. And of course, as we all agreed, in 3-year times, we will basically have to repeat. We must repeat this panel so we can see what the progress is. Now we will travel to my dear neighboring Sofia, and we have Janet here from Founder Institute in Sofia, and we will look at the landscape over there. Janet, go ahead.
Yeah, now you hear me, right? Great. It was great to hear about everyone's ecosystems. Actually, that's an enormous effort to collect this information, so huge respect. Here is a brief story about the ecosystem in Bulgaria. I want to tell the story from the entrepreneur's perspective. That's my kind of personal belief, that an ecosystem is evolving around the entrepreneurs, so those that are, having dreams, pushing, and so on. So in Bulgaria, a lot of the great startup stories are starting actually from the corporate tech world. We are a popular outsourcing destination. This used to be the case in the last, 20 and more years. Now more and more companies are, international companies are also setting product offices, not only service offices, but generally what we see is a high percentage of technical founders starting businesses versus business people starting businesses, which many people might say, oh, that's such a luxury. awesome to have the developers on board, but actually it's also challenging to have 5 developers as co-founders and no business people on board. So that's another story. But yeah, you can see here in the top left corner some of the organizations that are here that have offices like Uber, Skyscanner, Financial Times. So definitely these organizations are helping us keep, you know, great people here in the country, maybe have some savings and then later on get inspired to become from employee and turn into an entrepreneur, which is usually the story. Another interesting thing is then around this tech scene, what actually is also developing a lot is the event scene, because a lot of events are actually happening mainly due to recruiting needs of the organizations. So again, you have a lot of talent walking around looking for jobs, technical talent, and then the others also kind of related to the tech industry mingling around, and that's how you easily get actually co-founder couples that are with mixed background. But yeah, we have a lot of formats that are strictly technical, also startup formats. One of the events that I'm volunteering for is a conference called Digitalk. So the strategy over there, so the organizers of the conference is actually, I'm helping. My role at Founder Institute is to run the pre-seed accelerator here, but also we have set up an office here. So we are actually an example of an international organization that chose to have an office in Bulgaria. And that's the second office in the world after Silicon Valley. So the other part of the organizers are 2 VC funds and then a local business media. So you see 3 different stakeholders pushing a conference to basically thrive in an ecosystem, because it's on our agenda to bring amazing people. And then through those speaking opportunities, that was one of the strategies. Something else to mention, again, around this tech ecosystem that is basically giving birth to startups, we have seen a lot of female in tech initiatives. So just in a year or 2, we had the Ruby girls community, the Python girls, the women in tech. We started, I'm also helping another conference called She Leader. It's a European, pan-European platform to showcase leadership among women. As a rule, we always invite men speakers, actually. That was the rule. Our last edition was now in September, and like no panel with a man, without a man. So kind of changing perspectives. Something else interesting is I am part of this ecosystem actively since 2012. And initially you only had a few players, namely 11 and LaunchHub in terms of investments that were actually more focused on acceleration back then. Now they're growing together with their companies. And I think this goes the same way goes for all the other players, like the organizers of Meetups. Now they grew with their events and they're organizing other initiatives. That's also something typical for our ecosystem. But going back to 11 and LaunchHub, I just want to acknowledge, I guess, their contribution, because back then in 2011, 12, 13, they actually decided to put on their agenda a Balkan strategy, not only Bulgarian one. So actually from those days, we have a lot of foreign founders who came to Sofia to take part in an accelerator. For example, 11 had 127 investments in just for this short period. So this was actually, I guess, one of the other magical things that happened, because under the roof of this accelerator, you had founders failing their companies, but actually meeting other founders to start new companies. So we have a lot of international relationships, co-founder relationships, that failed one story, but then succeeded in another one. So that was something really cool. And that's why I'm actually super happy that we're here together, because I can see this repeating again, like this mingling strategy. Now the ecosystem is getting more and more mature. One criteria, for example, is we see more and more funds opening. Like you can see in our ecosystem, now the number of funds is more than double. also a number of success stories with startups, also just more and more news circling around. We have a few interesting exits. We don't have a unicorn yet, at least an exit one. But yeah, it's great to get into this space where you have, let's say, every 2-3 weeks an announcement about a Series A, about the, I don't know, international expansion and so on. So those are the stories we like. So yeah, I think this is basically the overview I wanted to share with you. I'm looking forward to some more great stories. Just one other curious thing, again, as a strategy of the ecosystem, and I think it's a joint strategy for most of the funds, and probably also influenced by the European Investment Fund, which takes part of most of the fund's capital. There is a lot of enthusiasm going around the Bulgarian diaspora abroad. So there are some investments in companies that are basically there is at least one Bulgarian founder on board. The company is completely not Bulgarian, based somewhere else. Maybe they have a tech R&D office or some kind of operations office in Bulgaria, but this proves to be also a very interesting strategy, since with all this technical talent, we are definitely not good at marketing, sales. So most of the successful companies that we have around are either in the deep tech, dev tool space, some fintechs, but basically the technical stuff and not so much, nothing customer facing. So we are actually hoping that those founders with their experience from the States, successful companies around Europe, from a business background, can come back and somehow share some knowledge. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions in the end in the QA, but I guess that's a quick overview of our ecosystem and how things are going.
Thanks for the lovely landscape showcase of the Bulgarian and Sofia ecosystem, Janet. And it really like blows my mind when I think about when you mentioned, you know, in the beginnings 11 and Launch Hub, and now when I see this landscape, I'm like, oh my God, it's definitely improved a lot. And Digitalk 2021, here we come. All of us are invited, right?
Absolutely.
Amazing. And we came to the final country from the Balkans. Last but not least, my lovely colleague Ivana will present to us the Serbian startup and innovation ecosystem. Ivana, go ahead.
Thank you, Nina. Good evening, everyone. Novi Sad calling. It is great to be in such a good company this evening and to hear all these amazing stories. So basically, I realized that our ecosystems are different, but I had no idea that we are so versatile. So for the end, I will tell you the story about Serbian ecosystem. And to understand Serbian ecosystem, first thing that you need to know is that our entrepreneurial ecosystem grew on a really strong tech talent base. So everything we do is basically grounded in tech, in technology, and in engineering mindset. And this is why we are often saying that our engineers can build anything, but they have zero business knowledge. And this is the space where where we have a lot of things to work on. And I will start with acceleration and incubation programs that have been profiled in the last couple of years more vertically, and now we are having, instead of general programs that are working with early stage ideas, which are still here, we also have some programs that are more vertically oriented, such as Social Impact Awards program that is specialized for social entrepreneurship, or Bioscience program, which works only with agri-tech startups, or Preduzimanje program, which works only with female founders. On top of that, we have also a lot of space for different meetup groups who are not only technically oriented, but also talk about the different entrepreneurial topics and help communities educate in different business related knowledge. Unfortunately, as you can see on my slide, this year, since we all know what happened in 2020, Most of the meetups group were disrupted by COVID-19 and they have stopped organizing live events. Some of them shifted online, but most of them didn't face this challenge that successfully. They're still organizing small scale events, but they're not even close to what we have before COVID emerged, because we have over 2,000 different meetup groups gathered either around some tech topics or around different business related verticals, and now they are all more or less inactive. Now, knowing that we are engineers in the background, we have also realized how to face the challenge of limited financial availability, limited availability of capital for startups. So this is why our entrepreneurs rather decide to bootstrap their projects, at least at the beginning, or to work with government funds rather than turning to VCs. So that trust in VC funds and angel investment networks is slowly building. And we even have our own Serbian venture fund, ICT Hub Ventures, and South Central Ventures is quite active in our ecosystem, and they have already a few successful investments and a few quite big investments in our ecosystems, and some of them were even about 300,000 euros. Another part of our ecosystem which is heavily affected by COVID are co-working spaces. We have different co-working spaces in most of the cities. Besides Belgrade, Novi Sad and Niš, which are tech centers, we also have co-working spaces in Kragujevac, in Vršac, in Zrenjanin, and all other smaller cities in the country. But they are now operating on very limited basis because people are mainly at home as we are tonight, this evening. And we hope that they will manage to survive this period and be able to provide their support not only in providing space but also gathering communities after this all passes. As for the media scene here, we are really happy to have started as one of the main medias that is addressing our entrepreneurial scene, and they have really done a lot in raising awareness of how important startups are and what it means to be an entrepreneur, especially a tech entrepreneur here in our society. And they are quite, we can even say that they are quite mainstream. And besides that, another quite influential media is Netokracija Serbia, which is a brand, also a partner with Croatian Netokracija. And they are doing amazing job now even with podcasts. And of course, a new media that we have in the entire region, not only in Serbia, is the CCP blog, because CCP entrepreneurship program supports different partners and stakeholders across Western Balkans. And in the last few months, we noticed the emerging need of connecting regions even more by providing joint media where we will share news and updates from all the Western Balkans ecosystems where CCP is active, which are North Macedonia, Albania, Kosovo, Serbia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. And as a final note on the Serbian ecosystem, I could say that we are still far behind our neighbors who are already members of European Union, but on the other hand, we have our own developing journey, and we hope that we will be able to collaborate more and learn from each other to and be able to grow together in the future.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Ivana, for showcasing the Serbian startup and innovation ecosystem. And this is basically a wrap. We covered 11 countries from the whole region. So much information to tap into, to explore, and it just shows how many opportunities are available for anybody. There's no excuse that there are no opportunities or this region is doomed to fail and there's nothing going on. Now we actually saw that there's so much going on and there are so many opportunities. I think we just need to maybe in the following period align better and see how more structured we can collaborate and maybe even open our market. So when we think about actually starting a business or scaling a business, we don't think about just, let's say, North Macedonia, 2 million people. We think about our whole region and how many people our business can affect. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for the lovely Womenpreneurs Balkans session. At this moment, I will